Hey guys, Akis here. So today we're going to be talking about the new Demon Hunter class, which just came out. It was announced this morning with the rest of the huge announcements that happened today. If you want to catch up with that, you can check that out elsewhere. We're going to be talking about the new cards that they're going to be having, and we're going to be reviewing them. This is including both a basic set that you will get when they are released, as well as an initiate set that also I believe you get when the class is released, to catch up with the fact that all the other classes are way ahead in terms of how many cards they have right now. So Demon Hunter is going to need a little bit of a boost in that case. And they will also be receiving some Ashes of Outland cards, which we will talk about in my Ashes of Outland card review. The first one will be happening very soon, and then we'll pop down some more card reviews on top of that as more cards get revealed. And I'm definitely going to make a video about the Hall of Fame cards in a future video, so we'll look at that later. But for the time being, it's all about that Demon Hunter. Alright, so this is my first card review that I've ever done. So let's just preface this by explaining what my rating system is going to be and how I will be evaluating cards. So I know a lot of people use the kind of star rating. It's a very easy way to visualize and simplify how you're evaluating these cards. So I'm going to do a similar thing. So basically for 1 star, I expect the card will not see any play and probably never will see any play, and it's just kind of just a bad card. 2 stars, I think it's unlikely to see play immediately in the meta it's entering into, though possibly in the future, if it gets support, it will be able to fit into future metas, but for the time being, it doesn't really fit with what I'm seeing around as it's being evaluated. 3 stars, I think there's a good chance that it'll see play somewhere, though it may be a contested deck slot because there might be other alternative cards at a similar power level, but it will definitely be something that's at least considerable. So it's at that playable but not vital kind of level of card. 4 stars, I think it's very likely to be seen in the meta and make it into a relevant deck. Unlike a 3-star card, I think it'll be very safe in the deck, and you probably won't be expecting to remove it for an alternative card. And a 5-star card, I am confident that it will be in a meta deck, and it will likely be a key component of that deck, whether it be a card that will literally build a deck around itself because of its power or the way that it functions, or it be a card that is just so strong that it will push the deck forward and its win rate just by being in the deck. Okay, let's start by looking at this new class, like I mentioned, Demon Hunter. So Illudre has joined the fray. He's joining Hearthstone as a new separate class from all the other ones, and his hero power is 1 mana to get 1 attack. So kind of like the Druid hero power, except 1 less mana, no armor. Honestly, first off, right there, I feel like that hero power is way ahead of the curve on a lot of the other heroes. I think that 1 attack for 1 mana isn't even that terrible. Obviously, you'd never play that as a card, but as a hero power, that seems way better than what a lot of the other ones are. Alright, so let's get into some cards. Okay, so first off, we're going to look at the basic set that we're starting off with for the Demon Hunter. So starting with the Shadowhoof Slayer, it's a 1 mana 2/1 demon battle cry. Give your hero +1 attack this turn. So far, we're seeing that Demon Hunter likes to attack a lot. This whole getting attack is very core to their way they build their game plan, and they also seem pretty aggressive. So a 1-drop like that, 1-drops are obviously going to be important to an aggressive strategy. And the way that this card works, it's kind of giving you a hero power for free, though you can combine it with your hero power and stack it to get more attack and hit bigger things, or just do more damage to face. I think some decks might not need the 1-drop. It might not be as much of an upgrade from just the hero power as it needs to be, but in an aggressive deck, I think it being a 1-drop, getting that body on the board, I think it'll be important, and I think we're going to give this, for the time being, 4 stars. Alright, Chaos Strike. That's the next one. 2 mana spell for Demon Hunter. Give your hero +2 attack this turn, and draw a card. So it is another card for Demon Hunter that gives you attack, gets you +2 attack, and that works with the whole Demon Hunter game plan. It is a cycle, it draws you a card, and it's hard to find a card that cycles for any less than 2 mana, especially when Priest is getting their powered shield changed right now, so it isn't a cycle anymore. So bundling the 2 attack and the draw seems pretty good. The fact that you're going to need to be getting the attack makes it worth it, I think. So I think because it is a attack synergy card and a draw card, I think it's pretty safe to give this card a 4 stars. I do think it will see play. Okay, next one is the Eldraki Warblades. That's a 3-mana 2/3 weapon with lifesteal. I think that this card will be pretty important in order for you to stay alive longer into the game. This is going to be your way of healing back so that Demon Hunter does have some healing. It's not a incredibly high damage weapon, and of course, given that it has lifesteal, probably shouldn't be. So it's unclear whether you'd want to run it in an aggressive Demon Hunter build, though I think just having that extra HP might just be worth it. And it is a 3 durability weapon. That is 6 damage being put out for that 3 mana, at least over the course of its entirety. I think if it doesn't see play in a aggressive deck, it will most certainly see play in some form of slower version of Demon Hunter that needs that healing so that they can stay in the game longer. So with that in mind, I think I'm going to give this a 4 stars. The next card is Coordinated Strike. It's a 3-mana spell that summons 3 Illudre with Rush. Looking at this off the bat, 3 1/1s with Rush does seem pretty underwhelming for 3 mana. But there is this other card, Feast of Souls, that will be in the Demon Hunter Initiate set that lets you draw for each friendly minion that's died, and I think combining those two might be pretty strong. There's also the Wrathscale Naga, which people are calling the Soul Juggler for Demon Slayer, or Demon Hunter. So I think these sacrificial cards might make it work and make it relevant, though I think it's entirely possible that we might just find that it doesn't end up getting used in that way, and that instead we find alternative ways to do it. Because really, if you combine the two, it's 5 mana for dealing 3 damage and drawing 3 cards. It's not a totally insane thing, and if it's kind of weak on its own, that might not be enough to sustain it. So I think I'm going to give Coordinated Strike 3 stars. Alright, Satyr Overseer. 3 mana, 4/2 demon. After your hero attacks, summon a 2/2 Satyr. Also, I would assume a demon as well. So if you're hero powering, that's 4 mana for 6/4 in stats. That is definitely a good deal. And the fact that this can continue to go off like that, I think this is a very powerful, aggressive card. And I think that any Demon Hunter that is trying to do an aggressive strategy is going to be running this card. So for that reason, I think I'm going to give this guy a 5 stars. I think it'll be pretty hard for you to justify not running this guy in some sort of Demon Hunter aggressive build, and I think that Demon Hunter will have an aggressive build for sure. Now on to Soul Cleave, which is a 3 mana spell. Lifesteal, deal 2 damage to 2 random enemy minions. So this is effectively Cleave from Warrior, but you add the lifesteal on top. I guess that's the soul part. So you're healing for 4, and you're dealing 2 damage to 2 random minions. Honestly, Cleave, I think is pretty, it's pretty good, but it hasn't seen any play for ages. And it might just be a little low impact, and that's the main problem. The fact that it's random is another issue. I think if Cleave alone was hard to see play, the fact that adding 1 mana to get the lifesteal on top, unless you're vitally needing that extra health, I think it's honestly not really worth it. I think it's an okay card, and I think that it could see play, but for now I think I'm going to drop it on 3 stars. Now we have Chaos Nova, 5 mana spell for Demon Hunter. Deal 4 damage to all minions. So of course Demon Hunter is going to need a board clear of some sort if that's the kind of identity that they're going to be having. So seems like they will be having some board clears for sure. So obviously comparable to things like Flame Strike, 7 mana, deal 4 to your opponent's board, or Hellfire, which is 3 damage to the whole board and the faces for 4 mana. I think it definitely makes sense at its mana cost, and I think that it will see play in slower Demon Hunter builds. And from what I saw of like the big demon type stuff, I think it's possible that we'll be seeing something like that. But regardless, I think that this will see some play. I think it's very likely to see play. I think I'm going to give it a 5 stars. Obviously, this is the basic set, so it's going to be around forever. So I think that at some point for sure, even if there's no decks that make any sense for Chaos Nova at the start, it's going to be around in Standard as long as Demon Hunter is. So it's definitely going to get played at some point. And the last basic card that we've seen is Glaive Bound Adept, 5 mana, 7/4, Battlecry. If your hero attack this turn, deal 4 damage. So again, because the hero power is 1 mana, gain 1 attack, you can just throw 1 mana on top of these things to activate that attack trigger. I think it's a little squishy for a 5 mana card, but that 7 attack is very relevant for pushing, and the initial dealing 4 damage seems pretty good. Honestly, thinking about it, the 4 health breakpoint is pretty good right now, I'd say. If you're just dropping them onto an empty board, I think it's likely to survive at least 1 card before it goes down. It could get hit with a Shadow Word Death or something like that, but then the health isn't really relevant. So I think it's pretty good. I think I'd be debating 3 or 4 stars a little bit more, but given their limited card pool right now, they don't have a ton of options for this like top end kind of aggressive card like this, because 5 is kind of where you start capping out in that kind of a deck. I think this would probably see some play, so I'm going to give it 4 stars. Alright, on to the Demon Hunter Initiate set. So our first card is a common card, 0 mana, spell Blur. Your hero can't take damage this turn. Now this obviously sounds good when you have a hero that attacks all the time, and you're going to be wanting to attack into minions some of that time at least. But I think that generally speaking, it won't be too bad having to attack into things, and the cost of one card just to negate that might be a little much. It depends on how much damage you're taking from it. And it also depends on how efficiently you're removing that minion with your attack that you're doing. You can't do a hell of a lot of damage from your attacks generally. So if you're trying to do 1 damage to like an 8 attack minion maybe, then you'd probably hope that there's another way to do it. And looking at their other cards, they do have some damage spells that you can use to hit things, and a few rush minions as well. And there's always neutral cards that you could use. So I honestly think that Blur doesn't make a ton of sense. The one thing that does make me think a little bit is that there is War Glaives of Azanoth. That's a card that's coming out with Ashes of Outland, and it lets you attack continually if you're attacking minions. That could potentially be a combo that you could do between the 2 cards to do a board cleary type effect. But that's a 2-card combo for a board clear. I think if you want to clear the board, you're probably just going to use the board clear that's in the basic set that we're getting, which is the Chaos Nova. There's also Blade Dance, which we're going to be covering in a second too. So doing it as a way of AoEing also doesn't really make any sense to me. So honestly, it just doesn't seem to fit very well. I think I'm going to give it 2 stars. If I find a reason for Auctioneer to make sense in Demon Hunter, if we had some sort of win con that worked for that, I think that Blur might make sense in there, but I don't really see that right now. I think it definitely has potential to work somewhere eventually. Then we have Twin Slice, which is 0 mana. Give your hero +1 attack this turn, add second slice to your hand, which does the same thing. Gives you +1 attack this turn. So it's a twin spell. They just don't want to print twin spells anymore because we're out of that year. And that's just how Blizzard works with their cards and stuff like that. It's pretty dumb. It's very comparable to the Druid card that gave you +2 attack for 0 mana. But because it's split up, it does work better with Auctioneer. So that could be a cool thing. So these are 2 spells that are both 0. So again, Auctioneer might make sense for this kind of thing. But otherwise, it's giving you that hero power thing, but more flexibly because you can fit it into any turn, any mana cost because it costs 0. So that could really work well with some of these other things. Again, the card cost though is a little high, but the fact that you get to do it twice might make it more worth it that way. And honestly, I'm seeing that it seems like Demon Hunter might have quite a bit of card draw, so it might not be that big of an issue. I'm going to say Twin Slice is going to be a 3-star card. Now we have Blade Fiend. This is a 1 mana 2/2 demon. After your hero attacks, gain +1 attack. We have a 1 mana 2/2 with an upside and no drawback. That's crazy. This thing is 5 stars. No freaking way that's not 5 stars. That is a not so aggressive card. That card is going to see play. Then we have Consume Magic, 1 mana Demon Hunter spell, silence an enemy minion, and Outcast, which we haven't covered yet, draw a card. So Outcast means that the card has to be either on the far left or the far right of your deck. It is an outcast in your hand. It is being left out from the rest of them. Interesting idea there. Obviously, the silence effect will be more relevant in some deck or in some metas than other metas, depending on what we're going to be dealing with. But honestly, a 1 mana cycle that does something, even a 1 mana cycle that did nothing, might even see play. So the fact that if you top deck this, you can silence something and then keep going with it, even in a not super necessary to have silence kind of a meta where there's not a bunch of huge like death rattles and stuff like that, there's always some reason to have it. There's always some effect that you might want to silence. And if you have that 1 extra mana to spare, you can throw that down. I think it's going to be good. I'm tempted to give it 5 stars, but the fact that the Outcast only works if you top deck it, or if you've had it in your hand the longest, I think that I'm going to give it 4 stars. Alright, next one, Mana Burn. This one's very interesting. 1 mana common card. Your opponent has 2 fewer mana crystals next turn. I think it's definitely an interesting idea, though I think that similar cards in the past haven't really made a lot of sense, like the Paladin card that made your opponent's spells cost 5 more that turn. Obviously that worked really well on Lotheb, where it was a battle cry, and we have Boom Pistol Bully that does that for battle cry minions, and that makes a lot of sense. But this is just taking away 2 mana, but you're spending 1 mana on it. People often say when they're talking about these cards that you hold it until your opponent's about to do something important. They're about to have that big turn, and you're expecting it to happen, so you play this and it shuts them out. I think that that isn't very helpful. I think that, generally speaking, that's not going to be relevant. You won't really know for sure if they have it, and if they didn't have it, you won't even know until later that you wasted your card and you wasted 1 mana. That's a big cost, honestly. 1 mana and a card in your hand just to slow your opponent down and potentially not actually stop them from doing anything that they wanted to do. The fact that it doesn't specify spell or minion or anything like that, that it just takes away the mana, does give me a little bit of pause, because you could make sure that there's no way that they could deal with certain threats maybe, or something like that in an aggressive strategy. But having this 1 card in an aggressive deck, that is a card that isn't a minion, isn't doing damage, I think it's too much of a tax, and I think I'm going to give this guy 1 star. It's another cheap spell, so it could work with Auctioneer. So we're seeing a lot of cheap spells like this. There could be a chance that an Auctioneer type deck does work, and then you just throw this down for 1 mana and it cycles itself. But again, I don't see the win con that goes with this Auctioneer Demon Hunter build. So if we find that, then I'll change my mind on this. Until then, I think I'm going to give it 1 star. Now we have Azul Horror, 1 mana 2/1 demon. Death Rattle, add a 2/1 Lost Soul to your hand. So you got a 2/1 1-drop that dies and gives you another 2/1. So it's kind of similar to Firefly, but it's on a Death Rattle and it's more aggressively statted. I think that the Battle Cry, having it come out when you initially play it, is much stronger. I think that this is fine. It gives you more 1-drops to play, and it might just be better than the other 1-drops available at the time. We are losing a little bit of the 1-drop pool with this rotation, stuff like Mekaru and such like that. So I think you might just not have really any better alternative to this if you want more 1-drops. We already have 2 1-drops though in the deck, if you're running the other 2 1-drops that Demon Hunter has been given thus far. I think both of those other ones are better than this one. I think I'm going to give this one 3 stars. Alright, now we have 2 mana spell for Demon Hunter, rare card, Blade Dance. Deal damage equal to your hero's attack to 3 random enemy minions. Alright, this one's interesting. So we had the Soul Cleave, which did 2 damage to 2 minions randomly for 3 mana with the lifesteal. So if we were to do the hero power, we'd have three hits for 1 damage, and that would be the same as the other spell, mana cost wise. And then we get the attack with it as well. So that's obviously a little weaker, but if we did something like Twin Slice to build up a lot of attack for the cheap, you could do a big board clear with this. or something like the Chaos Strike, or if you already have a weapon equipped, they have quite a few weapons. Blade Dance just seems very affordable at 2 mana, and hitting 3 minions, that's a lot of minions. There's just so much synergy with this gaining attack on your hero. I think this card is going to be great. I think this is going to do some big board swings, and it won't even hold you back very much. You're already going to be trying to get that attack anyways. I'm going to give Blade Dance 5 stars. Then we have another 2 mana rare spell for Demon Hunter, Feast of Souls. Draw a card for each friendly minion that died this turn. So I mentioned this when we looked at the other card, Coordinated Strike. You may or may not end up combining those 2 cards, but I think regardless of how you end up doing it, I think Feast of Souls is really good for its mana. You're going to get lots of cards if you end up trading a bunch of things in. At 2 mana, just drawing 2 cards would be fine, and you have the potential to draw a bunch more than that, combined with these other cards that summon a bunch of stuff. I think this card is going to be amazing. This is going to be a very important draw card for a lot of Demon Hunter decks. I'm going to give this guy 5 stars. Then we have Umberwing, a common weapon, 2 mana, 1/2 weapon. Summon 2 1/1 Fell Wings. So you're getting 2 1/1s, and you're getting a 1 attack, 2 durability weapon. So the good thing about having this weapon, it does set you up to have bigger attacks when combined with your attack increasing cards or hero power. And it also triggers your attack triggers even if you don't want to spend your mana on those things that give you your attack for your hero. For instance, putting this down on 2 and then playing the Satyr card that summons the 2/2 when you attack. You can just play it straight out on 3. That's a pretty good curve, it sounds like to me. And this is going to be an easy way to make that happen. And I think that's almost the main reason you might want this kind of thing. The 2 1/1s is definitely also good to have when you want to be sacrificing stuff with Feast of Souls and stuff like that. I think it's a very unassuming looking card, that it's not the most powerful thing we've ever seen, but I think it will be pretty solid. I'm going to give it 4 stars. Now we have Eyebeam, which is 3 mana, epic spell, lifesteal, deal 3 damage to a minion, outcast, this costs 0. So this card kind of reminds me of Vendetta. It's pretty expensive. Vendetta's a little worse because 4 mana for 4 is worse than 3 mana for 3, but the lifesteal is also there. We did have a Warlock spell, I believe, that was 2 mana, deal 2 lifesteal, and that did see some play, I remember, just because of the lifesteal aspect. I think in most cases, when you top deck a card, at the beginning of your turn, your opponent will probably have something that you'll want to be hitting with this 3 damage, unless it's at the beginning of the game and they haven't developed anything yet. I think a 0 mana deal 3 lifesteal, that's just so efficient. I don't see this not seeing play. It seems really good, especially if you do have these slower type of decks. You won't be that bothered, I think, to spend that 3 mana doing that damage if you have to. It's still a little hard to tell how hard Outcast will be to weave into your things and to find the right time to play things, whether it's going to work normally when you top deck things, or if you'll be able to wait until it gets all the way to the left side of your hand. But for the time being, I think it's pretty solid. I'm going to give Eyebeam 4 stars. Now we have Wrathscale Naga. 3 mana, epic card, 3/1. After a friendly minion dies, deal 3 damage to a random enemy. That includes the opponent's face as a target. I think this one definitely makes a lot of sense in these aggressive decks. You trade your stuff in, you pound them off with these 3 damage ticks. I think it will definitely be seeing play in some sort of deck that has a lot of this sacrificing your minions. I think it's potentially even your win condition because of the damage output that it can do. I'm going to give it 5 stars. Then we have Illudre Refell Blade, rare Demon Hunter card, 4 mana 5/3, rush, and outcast, gain immune this turn. Obviously, in most cases, immune is the equivalent to Divine Shield. It just blocks the damage the one time. There could be other synergies, we don't know. But generally speaking, you're just going to get that one extra hit in. Given that it's got 3 health, I think it generally will die if it doesn't have that immunity. I think a card like this is not always going to be something you want to play when you draw it. I think that makes the outcast a little bit more difficult to pull off. So this one does seem like a more awkward outcast card from what I can tell. The impact of getting a 5 attack trade and then keeping a 5/3 does seem very good, but honestly this one's making me feel pretty skeptical. So I think I'm gonna drop it down on a 2-star. Then we have Ragingfell Screamer, which is a 4/4 for 4 mana. Battlecry, the next demon you play costs 2 less. So given that it looks like there's going to be some sort of large demon type of archetype, and I've seen a few of the large demons that we will expect to be running, I think that this card definitely makes sense somewhere. It's still not a terrible body, so I don't think that it's much of a cost to be playing this minion to get that acceleration on your stuff. And also I feel like if you do have a deck full of large minions, you're gonna need something like this that comes down a little earlier and will help you get to your late game somehow. So I think I'm gonna give this guy 4 stars. Our next one is a spell, Command the Illudre, 5 mana, summon 6 1/1 Illudre with Rush. So this one's pretty comparable to Swarm of Locusts, which Hunter has right now. And that's 6 mana for 7 1/1s. This is 5 mana for 6 1/1s. I'd say 5 mana for 6 1/1s is much better. And though obviously Hunter has their quest, which gives them a lot of synergy with that, I think Demon Hunter also has a lot of synergy with this. I think this definitely strikes me as better than the 3 mana card that gave you the 3 1/1s. Generally when a bigger card does more, it's kind of just more worth it that way. You'll pay more mana to do the bigger thing, even if it's not quite as efficient as you'd like it to be. Just so that you're paying less of a card tax to do multiple things that would combine to this entire thing. Because otherwise you'd be playing 2 of those coordinated strikes to create this one Command the Illudre. I think this one has more likelihood to see play, though it's entirely possible that it's the other way around and I'm totally wrong, and that the 3 mana one is going to see more play than this one just because it's cheaper. But I'm feeling pretty good about this one. I'm going to give this 4 stars. Then we have Wrathscale Brut. 5 mana, 2/6 taunt. After this is attacked, deal 1 damage to all enemies. And it's a demon. So when I see this card, I just think, oh my god, this is going to destroy aggro so hard. You drop 1/1/1 into it, bam, all the other 1/1s are gone. That's going to hurt stuff like Galakron Warlock pretty hard if that's all they've got, right? And it also does damage to face. So if you wanted to put this into an aggressive deck, you could push a lot of damage in those aggro versus aggro matchups. You'd be both pushing back against your opponent's aggression and actually pushing damage on their face at the same time. And while that face damage won't be as relevant if you are playing a slower deck, you probably still would want something like this to slow down the more aggressive decks that you'll be facing. The only problem here being is if you're facing a deck that uses larger minions, that you're going to be getting 1 minion at a time, or mid-range type of strategies, then this is not going to pull its weight very much if it's getting hit 1 time, maybe 2 times, and it's not clearing anything when it does so. So it'll definitely have its strong matchups and its weak matchups, but I also can't imagine that we won't be seeing any aggressive decks, given that we've seen some already in this last meta, and a lot of these cards will be sticking around. I think it may be awkward in some cases, but I find it hard to believe that it won't find a place somewhere. So I think I'm going to give it a 4-star rating. Now we have Flame Reaper. 7 mana, 4/3 weapon, also damages the minions next to whomever your hero attacks. This is very reminiscent of the weapon that you got from the Warrior Death Knight back in the day. Though the hero power, I feel like, held that Death Knight back quite a bit. It did see some play as an aggressive way to finish out your opponents, and the AoE on the weapon was definitely a upside to that. You didn't necessarily need it every game, but it was there. I think this one will be used in a different way. You're more likely to be running this in a case where you will be wanting to do the AoE. Dealing 4 damage to 3 minions is often enough for you to be thinking about a Flame Strike if you were a mage. You'll be taking some damage, but you might be able to line it up so that you won't be taking too much damage. You'll be able to hit the right thing and take less from that, though your opponent does have the ability to position around this kind of thing. I think this kind of AoE constantly for 3 turns is very valuable, and I think it will see some play in some of these slower decks. You're definitely not going to be running this in a more aggressive deck. This is way too high cost and not enough damage for what you want it to be doing. Though I might be wrong. Maybe you do need it to both push the damage as well as protect your board once you've reached that point of the game. But I'm pretty impressed with this. I'm going to give it 4 stars. And for the last Demon Hunter Initiate card, we have Hulking Overfiend, which is an 8 mana 5/10 demon. Rush. After this minion attacks kills a minion, it may attack again. So this is obviously extremely reminiscent of Batterhead, where it's got 2 more attack but 2 less health. And I think that makes a lot of sense for the fact that you can kill more mid-sized minions. The Batterhead was very much for killing very small and aggressive boards. This could kill like 3, maybe 4 like mid-ish size minions and stuff like that. You can hit multiple levels of minions. And the fact that you have this big demon synergy that's going on with the demon hunters that will make it easier to get this on the board. I think this makes a lot of sense. I think it will be a powerful card. And just thinking about this coming down on 6 after it's been discounted by the Ragingfell Screamer, 5/10 smashing into all their stuff, that's a huge swing. I think it'll see some play. I'm gonna give it 4 stars. Alright, that's it for Demon Hunter. We checked out all the cards. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, please leave a like. Please comment down below about what you think of Demon Hunter so far, what you want to be seeing coming out of them in the future, and if you're feeling prepared or not. And please subscribe to see more card reviews from me as they come about, as all these cards get revealed along the reveal cycle. And thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one.